August 13th, 2025. In the disputed waters of the South China Sea, a Chinese warship chose to confront the American destroyer USS Higgins in an arrogant, reckless manner. Beijing captains shouted orders over the radio, boasting of sovereignty while their Coast Guard vessels sprayed water cannons at Filipino fishermen, forcing them to flee like uninvited intruders in their own waters. The humiliation was bitter, the image unforgettable. Simple wooden boats retreating before giants of steel. But the American destroyer USS Higgins is no pushover. With 9,200 tons of steel and gunpowder, it was built to project dominance on any ocean with majestic serenity. A quiet reminder that American naval power still deserves respect. This was no ordinary patrol. It was a clash of pride, of law, and of power. So what really happened in that confrontation? Were any shots fired? Let's find out the truth. August 13th, 2025, at exactly 7:46 a.m., the calm surface of the South China Sea shattered into confrontation. The American destroyer USS Higgins, a 9,000-ton steel giant built for both defense and dominance, was carrying out a routine freedom of navigation operation near Scarborough Shoal. For Washington, this was no reckless gamble. It was a legal, deliberate mission, a signal that the world's busiest sea lanes must remain open, no matter whose flags flutter on the horizon. But Beijing had other plans. Out of the haze, several Chinese warships appeared, their gray silhouettes cutting across the waves like predators circling their prey. Type Ro-52D destroyers and Type Ro-54A frigate. The sharp edge of China's naval rise closed in fast. Within minutes, they were riding parallel to Higgins, less than 500 yards away. Over the radio, a sharp voice crackled in English, thick with threat. U.S. warship, you are in Chinese waters. Leave immediately or face consequences. The intent was unmistakable. This was no routine patrol by China. It was a deliberate act of intimidation, a calculated attempt to provoke. Some ships even cut across Higgins's bow at dangerous angles, creating wakes that threatened collision. The message was clear: yield or be forced to. On Higgins's deck, sailors tightened their grips on steel railings. Their orders were firm: steady course, steady speed, minimal chatter. The restraint was almost unbearable. To men trained to react in split seconds, the urge to respond was strong. Every instinct screamed against this humiliation, but discipline held. Not a single missile was armed, not a single gun elevated. For ordinary Americans, it may seem unimaginable. The most powerful navy in the world forced to endure harassment without firing back. But that is the razor's edge of modern conflict. Strength measured not only, rammed and nearly capsized by steel hulls displacing 2,000 tons. The imbalance was staggering, a family's wooden livelihood against machines built to intimidate. The abuse did not stop there. Radios crackled with shouted insults, calling the Filipinos trespassers and dirty intruders. One fisherman later described the moment with tears. They chased us like we were vermin, like we were something disgusting to be cleaned from the sea. For men who had fished these grounds for decades, the humiliation cut deeper than the spray of salt water. By noon, at least a dozen Filipino boats had been forced back, their nets shredded, their catch lost. For coastal communities, that meant not only hunger, but financial ruin, the destruction of livelihoods in a single morning. International law had already ruled in 2016 that these waters belonged to the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Yet Beijing's actions showed the truth. Rulings on paper meant nothing when power was enforced with steel and water cannons. On Higgins, American sailors could see the distant flashes of spray, the smaller silhouettes breaking and scattering before the larger ones. They could do nothing. Their mission was restraint. But in their silence, the contrast became unbearable. A superpower's destroyer enduring harassment, while allies' fishermen were beaten back like pests. It was a picture the world was never meant to see, but one that revealed everything. China's hunger for control had no mercy, not even for unarmed civilians. Scarborough Shoal is little more than a ring of reefs and rocks barely visible above the water. Yet this speck on the map has become one of the most dangerous flashpoints on Earth. The reason is simple. Whoever controls these waters controls the arteries of global trade. Every year, more than $3.5 trillion worth of goods flow through the South China Sea. That is nearly 1/3 of the world's maritime commerce, carried by over 60,000 merchant vessels. Oil tankers alone transport more than 15 million barrels of crude every day, fueling the economies of Japan, South Korea, and the United States itself. If China succeeds in normalizing its dominance here, the consequences would be staggering. Imagine Beijing with the power to delay, divert, or even cut off shipments in one of the busiest trade routes on Earth. That is not just about fishing rights or maritime borders. It is about the ability to strangle economies, to wield economic warfare without firing a single shot. For America, the stakes could not be clearer. The credibility of its alliances is on the line. If the Philippines, a treaty ally, is left alone to face water cannons and rammings, then what faith can Japan or South Korea place in Washington's